Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. I'm recording this on Tuesday night, so for me, it's still President Nelson's birthday. And I was keeping my eye on the news because in years past, there have been interesting things that have coincided with President Nelson's birthday. And it looks like this year is no different. There's actually two kind of unusual things that have taken place this evening. And so that's what I want to talk about in this video. To give you a quick recap, I feel like I haven't been doing enough on this spreadsheet. This is actually the first spreadsheet that I put together that led to all the other spreadsheets. This spreadsheet is called Timeline Second Coming. It's supposed to be just like a master timeline of all these unusual events, things that I think are signs. And then we have calamities, disasters, wars, and all sorts of stuff on here. So if we go back to 2022, that was President Nelson's 98th birthday. And with that birthday, he became the longest living prophet or apostle of this dispensation. And what happened, and this still blows me away, is the day before, Queen Elizabeth II passed away. She was the longest reigning British monarch. So you have this prophet that breaks this record. And not just any prophet, but one who's always talking about the second coming. And the day before, the Queen of England passes away. And like I've said before, I felt like she would always be around. That's the only Queen of England that I ever knew since I was born. So it was a very interesting 24 to 48 hours when that happened. And then the day after his 98th birthday, you had a couple of twin earthquakes. The first one was the day after his birthday, tied for largest of the year. And it was one day after his birthday at 7.6. And then there was one 9 days later in Mexico. So I just felt like all that was kind of unusual. And it was with this birthday that you had all these other world leaders that were the longest living, longest serving of their kind that also passed away. Mikhail Gorbachev of the Soviet Union, Japan's Shinzo Abe, and others, all around this time when President Nelson breaks this record. Okay, so that was 2022. Fast forward to 2023. Where is it? Right here. He turns 99. The day before his birthday, there was a 6.3 earthquake in Morocco. I haven't gone back to verify the numbers or see if it climbed anymore, but 3,000 passed away with that. And then on his birthday, there was Storm Daniel in the Mediterranean that hit a bunch of countries. And the last I checked, they still haven't finalized the death toll with that event, but it was between 4,000 to 10,000 dead. Back in 2023, I was trying my hardest to track all these different calamities. And it was too much. It was consuming too much time. But while I was doing it, it just so happened that these were the second and third deadliest disasters of that year. If I'm not mistaken, the first one I think was the earthquake. No, maybe that was the deadliest. No, it was the earthquake in Turkey and Syria, and that was a little over 59,000 deaths. That's the one that caused the Mount of Olives in Turkey to split into two. So anyway, you had 2 years in a row where you have these things that took place on or around President Nelson's birthday. I didn't note anything for 2024. Interestingly, 2024, that's when he turned 100. You'd think that something probably would have happened on that day or around it. Maybe I missed it. I don't know. But now, here we are in 2025, and there's two, I think, pretty unusual things that have taken place. Let's go to this next spreadsheet. This one is called Timeline Israel War Escalations. I haven't done the best with this, but I do think that I've gotten all the major events of the Israel-Hamas war since it started October 7th, 2023. I've tried to capture all the major escalations of this war, and they're not ending. And I'm not going to go over all these. Again, you can pause and read. But it's resulted in excuse me, it's resulted in a 7-front war, which is interesting. The first time I heard that was from the Israeli defense minister. That came out in an article. You have the 7 fronts. Let me just name them really quick. So you have Hamas, you have Hezbollah, you have the militias in Syria and Iraq. So that's 4. And then Yemen. And then, oh my gosh. And then you have, I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, then you have the West Bank. That was another one. Because there has been some action in the West Bank. And then Iran itself. So 7-front war. And there's been all these escalations which have interested me because I have felt that this war is different from other Israeli wars. Before this point, Israel had already experienced 3 existential wars. The War of Independence, the Six-Day War, and the Yom Kippur War. And then exactly 50 years later in a day, that's when this war started. And this was also a surprise attack. And it hasn't ended yet. And there have been some pretty major flare-ups, including this year. In fact, there was, and I guess it's being considered a separate war, but you have the 12-day war between Israel and Iran. We haven't seen that before. The first ever direct attack from Iran happened last year, but then to actually see a war between them that involved bombings and ballistic missiles, it was crazy. I felt like that was a really serious escalation, and I think it still is. I would say that Israel and the United States won in that war, but I'm not sure that it's over yet. So you'd think, okay, that's like maybe the biggest escalation. And if that didn't cause World War III, or if that didn't cause the final war, Armageddon, the siege of Jerusalem, then what will? Well, I don't know, but it's going to come sometime in the future, and we know that because of prophecy. But one more escalation took place today on President Nelson's 101st birthday. Let's go over to this. This is CNN. Israel targets Hamas leadership in Qatar. In Qatar. This has not happened before. You can see it right here. Okay, let me just start reading here, I guess. This is a different article. Israel carried out an attack targeting Hamas leadership in Qatar on Tuesday in an unprecedented strike on a key mediator in the Gaza conflict that threatened to derail renewed peace efforts and further inflame tensions in the region. A senior Israeli official told CNN that among those targeted was Hamas chief negotiator Khalil al-Hayya. Quote, "We are awaiting the results of the strike," the official said. It goes on to talk about the fact that Qatar wasn't happy about it at all. I'm not going to read this, but you can pause and read the highlighted parts. This is what Netanyahu said. "The days when the heads of terror enjoyed immunity anywhere are over. I will not allow such immunity for the murders of our people." An Israeli security official said the operation, quote, "could potentially generate a shift," end quote, "that could bring an end to the war in Gaza." I guess we'll see. Later on, it says the Israeli strike involved more than 10 fighter jets. The White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt called the strike unfortunate, quote unquote, and said it ran counter to U.S. President Donald Trump's goals in the region. Quote, "Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals," she said. Okay. And then we have something from President Trump. By the time that I publish this, maybe he's already spoken on it, so you may have to go check that out if you haven't already. But today, as I'm recording this, he said, "I'm not thrilled about the whole situation. It's not a good situation. But I will say this, we want the hostages back, but we are not thrilled about the way that went down," Trump told reporters Tuesday evening. Continuing, "I'll be giving a full statement tomorrow, but I will tell you this, I was very unhappy about every aspect." So, okay. It says here it killed 5 members of Hamas, and then a Qatari security official right here. It notes that Qatar's prime minister was visibly angry. So I don't know. I'm not an expert, and even the experts probably don't really know the fallout from this. Maybe somebody does. Maybe somebody's going to guess right. But what I've come to learn, I think, in life is that even the experts don't really know. They have really good guesses, but still, it's impossible to predict things in this life. At least when it comes to really complicated, complex situations like this. So it's going to be interesting in the days ahead and weeks and months. I don't think that this is going to lead to like a new type of war, but Israel hasn't attacked anywhere in Qatar before, at least not according to this. I also did a search on Grok. I don't have it pulled up, but it said that this has never happened before. So this is something new. It's something new. And I have to wonder, what's the next new thing going to be? Because it shows no signs of stopping. When am I going to end this spreadsheet? When does it come to an end? And I think the answer is the second coming. I think the final escalation on this spreadsheet is going to be the invasion of Jerusalem, but we'll have to see. So this happened on President Nelson's 101st birthday. Maybe, nothing will happen, or maybe something will. Maybe this will be yet a new phase of this whole conflict and this drama that we're seeing play out. Okay, well, so there's that. And then the other thing is, I saw on X that there were all these like reports of Poland shutting down some of their major airports, and there's like this drone attack, I guess, that's been going on. And so as of right now, this is breaking news. Objects shot down in Polish airspace. Armed forces. The Polish armed forces said they have deployed weapons to neutralize drone-type objects that repeatedly violated their airspace this morning. So these, of course, would be from Russia. I did a search on Grok to see, is this the first time that there's been any sort of like violation or attack from Russia on Poland? And I don't know that there's been any direct attacks, but it does note all these different incidents where you have, stray or maybe intentional missiles or things that go through Poland's airspace, including drones, like right here, August of 2024. But nothing that you would say, I don't think, is considered a direct attack. And it notes at the end here broader implications. As a NATO member, such violations risk escalation under Article 5, collective defense, but NATO has treated them as provocations rather than acts of war. Poland has increased broader fortifications, example, East Shield Project, and spent nearly 5% of GDP on defense in response. Well, there was, let's see if I can find it again. There was somebody that was calling it an act of war today. Right here, U.S. lawmakers react to alleged Russia drone activity. Senator Chris Murphy, the top Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, said that it would be, quote unquote, incredibly serious if the reports of Russian aerial assets flying over a NATO country are true. Joel Wilson, representative for South Carolina from the Republican Party, who also sits on foreign services and armed services, called Russia's alleged actions a quote unquote act of war. I urge President Trump to respond with mandatory sanctions that will bankrupt the Russian war machine and arm Ukraine with weapons capable of striking Russia, he wrote in a post on X, highlighting that the latest development happened days after Trump hosted Polish President Nawrocki at the White House. So I don't think I'm going to put this on my spreadsheet yet, although maybe I should so I don't forget it. I don't know that this is going to be like a huge escalation or a turning point, or suddenly Russia is going to be at war with NATO. But only time will tell. That's the only way that we can know. We can speculate and guess and have educated guesses all that we want, but only time will tell. All I'm saying is that it's really interesting that these things are happening on President Nelson's birthday. So it's not too much of a surprise, really, but I don't know. Just every day that goes by, like I've said before, just gets stranger. It's been a very, very interesting year, and I got to do a better job with keeping on top of this like breaking news. This whole year, I've basically just been doing like the one video a day. I kind of got into a groove, but I feel like that's been lacking, and I need to spend some more time on these spreadsheets. And it's because, like, I mean, no one else is going to do it. If you don't do it, I'm just like saying in general, as a general principle, if you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. And I feel like we've benefited a lot from my spreadsheets and just tracking things. You don't need permission from people to track things and put together your own research. And when you do, sometimes you track things that other people miss. So I'm going to try and do the best that I can. But that's going to be it for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.